Hello everybody, welcome back to Wappelville. And I got my setup screen here. I just wanted to try that out, see what that would be like. Now we're going to go here and we're going to get into our, let's see if we can have some of these things refreshed and see how that works. Alright, we got some Splintered Fang here. There's a few of these. I think I've got 5 of these to work on. These are actually for a charity auction or raffle at Adepticon this year. Not far off. Kathy's already working on her Splintered Fang, so I'm going to work on mine. And you can see we've got a little picture here that shows, let's see, I think we've got, it's this one. Nope, maybe it's this one. Oh, we've got our little guy right over here. Well, let's see if that, there it is. So you can see she's been working on her Lava OSL and everything like that, which is sort of based on this guy right here. This is one of our murder chickens, one of the Raptorix, and we use the same bulletin board cork right here. Did the lava effects. Now, I think one thing that's different is I use the Vallejo fluorescence, as did she, but I'm going to be using the golden acrylics right here. We'll see how this. I've already done several different live episodes. Actually, I've done one with the green, one with the magenta, and now I've got the blue right here. So I'm certainly going to find me some kind of an example where I can use that too. Now, flesh tone wise, and you can actually see these are in some other tutorials as well. We've got some of the, right out of the starter box here, right? The Untamed Beasts. You can see we've got purples in there and greens. And I think I want to do some of that on these guys because what that'll do is give me some nice things to reflect that lava on. Not sure about blood effects because we're both working on this together. And I have to see what Kathy wants to do. We've got plenty of snakes to do. That's why I've got some of these reference pictures out here. Just so that I can see what she was doing. So, okay. Trevor just did a little test of the... Let's see if that works again. So that's not working. Here, let's see what this does. Alright. Well, still not giving me what I want here. So the thing that worked so well last time is apparently not going to work this time around. Not quite sure why it wants to do that. Here, let's try it one more time. So we're just going to have to add it by hand. That's one of the things with, for whatever reason, I have absolutely no reason why. With YouTube, it works that day, and then the next day doesn't work at all. You have absolutely no clue why. So we'll try this again and see what happens. And I just want to make sure my transparency is set to there. And let's see what happens. And I still have absolutely no chat whatsoever. So I'm going to have to do this off screen. Sorry about that, guys. Not sure what's going on. We're going to be using our typical craft brushes right here. And I'll show you what these look like. Got them from Hobby Lobby, but really, there's a bunch of different places that have stuff just like this. So you can see they're $5. There's 12 of them. And when they're more pristine and a little bit newer, you can see they've got themselves a nice fine tip on there. And once they've been beat up and worn down, they actually make a really nice filbert brush. We are also going to use the ProAcryl transparents, and you can see these arrayed around here. Just use the brush to point these out. Transparent black, blue, purple, green, red, orange. There's the yellow. There is our transparent brown. This is an off-white here, kind of an ivory. Obviously, this is our fluorescent from golden acrylics. So we're just going to get some of these guys out of my way here, just so I don't crash into stuff. And we'll talk about some of these things as we go along. So here, let me Let me get some of these out of harm's way. Yep, still. Hey Gary, how's it going? Yeah, you can see me, but for whatever reason, I can't see you. Ah, it's just the craziest darn thing. Let's see, is that going to work? That is not going to work. So, for whatever reason, here, let's just get into some of our stuff. Now, we are going to mix a lot here. Think of these as real similar to, in some ways, the contrast paints. Think of the brown and the black together, basically making something like a contrast wildwood. And let's take a look at what Kathy did on her bases. So the bases themselves, well, those have a little more blue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some green into this here. This is something that's a little bit tougher to do with the contrast paints. And she's actually doing sort of a steel, I think, on some of her metals because she wants to be able to really reflect the lava in as many places as possible. So yeah, these guys here, as I said, they are going to be part of a, I think it's a charity raffle at Adepticon. I could be wrong, but I do believe that's what we're looking at. And you can see we are not worried about that whole following within lines and everything else. I just threw in some of the red here because I just want to get some initial covering of this primer. The primer is the usual Badger Stynylrez. It's just Kathy brushed this on by hand. I'm going to get a little bit more of my transparent brown to work in here. You can see we're not worried about following within lines or any of those sort of things. The idea is get away from that primer as soon as possible. We're still taking advantage of some of that pre-shading though. A couple of advantages with the ProAcryl transparents over the contrast paints. Well, they're, I don't want to say half the price, but if they're not, they're pretty darn close to half the price. Here, I'm going to see if I can't, there we go. I just wanted to go one step closer here. Now maybe this is just going to be a darker flesh tone. She has a few different flesh tones going on hers. This sort of gives me that flexibility. Yeah, let's just get some color on that blade. I'll show you the primer in a second as we sort of let that set up. And this is basically how all the miniatures begin. So here's your primer, Badger Stynylrez. Now there's other things that I can do. I can even take some of these makeup sponges like this. And you see I can pull away some of the initial glaze. Like how much is that's coming off? Pull some more away. Up here on our sword. Now you do this with the contrast paints, and I've tried it. Oh boy, there's almost no way to avoid watermarks, which that's an unfortunate thing because I really do like this option. So I can use this sponge. You can see how majority of the paint stays behind. Majority of that stays behind, and what we'll do is we'll show you what that looks like then compared to one that doesn't have these initial glazes here. Let's just grab this one. I think it's a little bit closer in the pose. So you can see straight away we've got ourselves some tinting here. We got some reds in some area. Now let's go more towards what she did with her blue. Blue and brown together tend to make a sort of a black. Who would have thought? And that's what we've sort of mixed together here. Like so. Let's do a little more. Almost get a bit of a shadow under him. Now, one of the reasons why she did the cooler colored rocks, well, that's kind of obvious because, yeah, being darker than the lava is going to have some contrast, but you also make it cooler than the lava. You've got some bonus contrast there, which is always a good thing. Contrast that's more than just light and dark. Keeps things from getting really boring. And again, we'll show you what we did here with the Raptorix. And I'll have a link to this. I also have some, at the end of every video, there are some screens, some end screens that take you to different videos. So you can see the underlighting here. Well, that's what we're going to be doing on these guys. You can see here, again, another one that's going to have some strong underlighting on that. I'll try and get to some other ones besides just this one. But I've been really, there's been a lot of work happening today, and well, I got a way later start on this than I anticipated, so might just be working on this one guy here. Now you can see we've started to migrate into something more akin to maybe a lava reflection onto the rocks. It's still pretty dark yet, and I could go either way. I could start it out much lighter and go over the top, but I did want to show you how efficiently something like that fluorescent paint covers. That's why I've been liking that golden acrylic stuff. I did not expect that to cover so well. Not in a million years, because I've used other fluorescents that are almost that thin. Up until recently, well, pretty darn recently, I've been using only the Vallejo fluorescent. And I'll maybe show you some of those later, show you just how thick they are. Incredibly thick. Now, of course, people get the impression that because they're so thick, they're going to cover. Yeah, kind of the opposite of cover. They don't. Now, I'm going to get in a little bit of orange here. And you can, I mean, as bright as that orange looked, now I'm pointing to the transparent orange there. When you get to the fluorescent orange, it is just wow. It's amazing. It is amazing the difference. And you can see we are trying to get rid of all that primer as soon as we can. And you can see there's definitely much more watery. If you've watched any of my object source lighting videos, you know that that's one of the first things we put in. It's not the last thing. We're not superimposing that over the top of, well, however long you've spent painting it. 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. I think that's the reason why a lot of people just don't do the object source lighting, because, well, and I've heard it. I have heard the phrase, I don't know how many times, well, I don't want to ruin it. Well, if you don't ever do it, then you don't ever ruin it. But I'm thinking that maybe you want to give it a try. Now, speaking of giving something a try here, let's start to expand. Some of our object source lighting here. We know we want it on the other side of this blade. Now, some of this it's still wet. Now, some of this stuff is still wet. Now here, got to think of a shadow because there's a rock here. However, and Kathy and I, we talked about this, that, well, there's an environment beyond just this base. He's not just standing on this one island and this tiny little bit of lava. There's other open areas where the lava would probably be reflecting on him. I'm guessing that's a vial of some kind of poison stuff. You can see we're keeping the emphasis on all of the surfaces pointed towards the lower down here towards our lava. See there, that would be a little too much, but we're just going to start to get a few peaks of a glow here. And especially where you're thinking there might be some metal involved. Oh heck, I might even do just a little bit here on the underside of his head, or the helmet there, just for the heck of it. Now at a certain point I might turn my regular light on so that I can see what I am doing. Let's go with some more on our... If these are going to be snake scales, they could potentially be somewhat reflective too. Just have to keep looking for just a few places now. I'm thinking, yeah, here too maybe. This is where it's just advantageous that there is this translucency. It's nice and it's got some wateriness to it. I mean, that's for sure. Definitely. Oh my gosh, it is so much more watery than the Vallejo fluorescent paints. Those things, you would sit them on the end of the brush. It's almost like a blob of jello or something sitting on the end of the brush by comparison to this. Now I've tried other, oh my gosh, 3-4 other types, and they are the same sort of viscosity as this in that they're really watery, but boy, they don't cover it all. They don't even really mix well with other colors, whereas as this really does mix very well. And you can see how we're staying with our... we're going to stick with our fluorescent here. We're just going to build this up rapidly, even. Thinking here, the undersides of these rocks. Now, she tried to make as many of these little undercuts as she could because, well, it gives you lots of chances to do reflections just like this. And the bulletin board cork, it's nice because unlike the sort of standard thin cork that you see all the time, well, this is a little less identifiable as cork, whereas the other stuff, you just kind of look at it and you go, oh look, they used cork. I know, look, they used exactly 3 levels of cork. And to maybe get away from the super identifiable material, maybe use this. Little less identifiable as just straight up cork. Now we can, there's going to be some other stuff glazed in here. There'll be some more reds in there. But there's actually still some wet paint going on. Now you can obviously lighten this up. You add some opaque colors to it, and that'll do the trick. Oh, let's see. Do I want to? No, I'm not going to do something there. We're going to get a little more. I don't even know if you can see that. Just adding some of the fluorescence there to the underside. Let's do some of that on the skin tone here. See, I'll probably do some more of live streams with these guys here, so you can keep, just like Kathy is with her live streams on her Twitch channel. Now it's more than dice, actually. Now we can, here, let's start to get some of these guys again out of my way. And we've got our lighter color here. Now as soon as you start to mix even something that isn't off-white, I could take the, I think it's golden yellow is the creature caster color. That is, it's opaque, but it's also not going to turn things, well, darn near pink. So something to be aware of. And you can see we're going to stick with the bigger brush too. And that's the number 8 round, just essentially a craft brush. And yeah, this is probably I think this is the one with the, yeah, the other one that I showed you earlier. That's the one with the, well, the filbert type edge. Well, that one's seen a lot of action. Right away, before I've done anything else, I've already started to establish, okay, where's the glow? How much glow? Instead of, well, sometimes you would end up wasting a whole bunch of time. You're painting all this stuff, super detailed, everything else, and then you find out, oh, yeah, well, now I just need to light that part, and all the stuff that I spent time painting, well, that's going to get covered up. Another reason to lead off with the object source lighting, that maybe as scary as that can be. I realize that not all of these things that I say are the easiest to just kind of jump into. Maybe you've seen the prime it black and layer and layer and layer, and that's great. We did that back in the early days, and a few problems with that. First of all, it just took way too long to paint stuff. That's never good. But we weren't gonna get the, you would have, say, robes and cloaks that were shaded. Yeah, that's great. They had nice shading, but they had no real depth to them. The shadows of the cloaks were just a darker red or a darker blue. There was nothing more to really distinguish those. And once we started to, well, essentially kind of adopt the 2D art mentality on some of these things, that's when stuff started to change. So we'll just say that's our goal for now. Let's start to make some skin tones here, and skin tones tend to be a red, a yellow, and some kind of a light color. So we're working on a sort of a base of a skin tone here. Let's do the old skin test so I can actually go a bit more with my lighter tone, and I'm going to take a cooler tone with it. Gonna make a few different skin tones. I like to have the skin tone that's got a little bit of the pink going in it. Alright, so I got a whole bunch of different skin tones. There we go. See, I got all kinds of fun skin tones. Just like I did with the lava. Now we're going in the opposite direction. We are going to establish ourselves some skin tones here. And it looks like, I don't know if those are the, I thought of some tattoos. Maybe we do that. It just kind of depends. Maybe that's something I don't really think about until I have several of these guys out of the way. Let's get the, yeah, we gotta remember that there's, okay, so they're actually wearing there's not as much skin tone as I thought there was going to be, because we've got little hidden things of pants here and there. And yeah, I'll just get his feet here. We can always, remember, glaze things back over again. Yeah, so if you were trying to type things into the chat, I can't see anything there, even on YouTube itself. I have no idea why. And I've refreshed ad nauseum. So if you are asking questions or saying hello, I'm not ignoring you. I don't see any. Oh, well, that answers that. Hey, Will, how's it going? just painting ourselves some. Kathy and I working on that joint project of the Splintered Fang for the Adepticon charity. Last time we painted something for the Adepticon charity, boy, that was a long time ago. Well, some of you will know just by me mentioning Dreadfleet, because we each painted one Dreadfleet ship. I know there was some other longtime miniature painters. They each painted a Dreadfleet ship, and the entire thing that was raffled off at Adepticon. Well, we weren't at this hotel, and we probably even maybe had a year or two left at the other old hotel. That's how long ago that was. Has to be probably 2013 or something. Because Dreadfleet, boy, that was a long time ago. Now, if she's doing more of a silver type thing here, let's get a touch of blue-gray into this. Especially on things that are going to be facing upwards here. Away from our lava. Let's go. We've got this. That's what I like about having the wet palette here, and the wet palette's pretty basic. It's a Chinese food container with a chamois sponge, some parchment paper that we would use to bake our cookies, some water, and that's it. That is as fancy as it gets, which is not fancy at all. Not fancy at all. It was actually, I think, I'm going to be getting me another wet palette tomorrow, because I believe we are going to be having some Chinese food again, maybe. Which, that wouldn't be horrible. I think I had Mongolian beef last time. Oh, thanks, Will. It's been very active. I just actually uploaded another Patreon video. That was another Dark Sword figure, and that was a interesting, and by interesting I mean pretty darn tough exercise, where all I took was the 6 most recent or new additions to the Creature Caster line of colors, and did a video with just those 6, with nothing else. No other colors, none of my Reaper stuff, absolutely nothing else. And to say that was challenging would be an insult to understatements everywhere. Because my darkest dark was not, well, it was dark, but it was not as dark as what I'm used to. And my only light for painting an Arctic fox was this sort of off-white, kind of a yellowish white, and that was it. That's all I had. So when I went to make any kind of a bluish color lighter, well, you can imagine it turned green. Yeah, it did that. And you can see we just kind of continue with the larger brush here. Let's get some kind of lighter skin tones in here now. We've got plenty of darker skin tones. Here with some more. I was happy to get the Black Sun miniatures, that 75 mil figure. That was another video I did for the Patreon page. I really love doing the 75 millimeters, but especially with oils. So that was fun. I've done a couple of Nocturna figures, but they were in acrylics, like that, the big wizard, whatever he was. Show you these things when I can. Just sort of occupied right now with. This is all about that. To me, shaded base coat is what I call it. Because you're not doing any kind of a flat base coat at all. There is some shading to it, but still in reality it is just, for all intents and purposes, it's a base coat. Because we can do so much more on top of this. Oh, Will says he's seen a few folks underpainting yellow with pink. MPG with other colors. Well, I don't really. How can I say this? I try to stay away from rules and rules of thumb. Aside from the most basic, most simple things of if you want to have some light, you better have some dark. And if you're going to have a saturated color and you want to have subtle transition, have something a little bit less saturated next to it. So I worry more about saturation and mixing of colors as opposed to necessarily a lot of the pre-glazing stuff that's going on. Maybe that's just a 2D painter in me. And a lot of the stuff that they're doing with the yellow and the pink, well, I added a ton of this into my golds on my Lizardman Blood Bowl team. And believe you me, that those yellows became really intense and very bright. Didn't have, I was just doing it. There was nothing where I was just putting down some pink and then yellow over the top. It was just I mixed it right into the color, and it just made it that much more intense. Just like here, so I've got all my colors out. I can mix the color right here on the palette. It's not to say that I don't like to do transparent glaze type things at all. I really do. That's the whole reason behind the Reaper Clears and the transparent paints and all that. But yeah, I guess apparently that's a thing now. Or I'm not sure when it became a thing, if it's just super recent. Now, there's another thing too that I tell folks is that really avoid using white to lighten things or highlight stuff. It's usually in response to the, man, how does this get so chalky and all my reds look like pink? Well, if you use an off-white for lighting stuff, well, then you're not going to get that pink. Not going to end up with pink. So yeah, that's only something that I just heard about. Oh gosh, I think Kathy told me about it yesterday. It was something that either she saw on somebody's stream or heard on or saw on Facebook or whatever. I hadn't heard anything like that before. As far as whatever the latest fad or paint trend is, we've pretty much, for the most part, ignored those for 20 years. It's well, sometimes you end up just chasing those. I'd rather just be making my own adjustments. That print is pretty saturated. Yep, I'll throw purples and greens in the shadows, but sometimes they're super saturated, and sometimes they're actually really, really almost, well, here, let's grab. You'll see some of those purples and greens that are in his flesh. Sometimes those are what's in my golds. And at some point, I've got that sitting over here, and I can get it under the, well, as best as I can, get it under the camera, because the camera's been adjusted for something smaller like this guy. Not that big old 75 mil Black Sun figure. And I like to use pinks and skin tones. Well, I like to use the pink and the turquoise on metal blades. So let's find one here for you. Here's an example. So you can see there's the pink and purple and then the turquoise on the blade there, but also some of the greens. So that's another one of my painting series that I did. It's the Cipher Lords. That's another example right there for you. The shadow areas, basically what I'm trying to do with those is to find something interesting in there. So if it's a green cloak, sometimes I will use purples or some kind of dark red in the shadows and the folds of that cloak instead of just a darker green. And sometimes I'll glaze that in. Sometimes that's more or less painted in a more, say, opaque way. Now, yeah, those, I think we're going to have those be some kind of, yeah, we won't have them be the, okay, let's get some, we need some light coming from above. We worked on all that light coming from below. Yeah, let's do some more, get some more lights into our skin tone here, and then we'll throw in some of the green that I really like throwing in that green in my skin tones. Now, we're talking about transparency and stuff. Oh, Will has another little statement here real quick. That would be my question then. Why just mix pink into the gold? There is no, unfortunately, there is no solid rule. Um, I know people like to have absolutes and rules. It all depends. The reason I put the fluorescent colors, I'll even throw the yellow fluorescent in with purple, and it makes a really nice sort of a sienna type color. I really love that. Sometimes I throw in the fluorescent green with orange to make yet another type of a gold color. It's more of a feel sort of a thing than you always do it in this situation or you never do that in this situation. And it depends now with metal, you're kind of wanting to get some sparkle on that. So that's why I have the fluorescent type stuff, because even on those, well, we'll look at them again. I was using fluorescent green here. I was using fluorescent magenta on some of the blades there. So I'm just going to get me, let's go with here we go. Looking for my Winsor Newton brush over here. Going to get some of those. So here's where I'm going to do something that's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum here. We're doing some kind of bright, almost like a sky blue here. And that's going to work its way onto the helmet, onto the sword. Right, and now we're going to take some of the purple over here. Because if you've seen some of the things where I take the transparency or the saturation of the screen and turn that down, remember some things just get translated as gray. So when you have purple and green next to each other, a lot of times when the person's looking at it, they just see it as, well, it's gray, and that's it. So pardon me while I hold my breath a little bit here just to get this edge like so. Okay, I'm trying to set something up here for a quick little demonstration of saturation and value and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's not going to get any lava reflection right there. Oh, let's get the other edge of this. And then I'm gonna do some of the top edge on the shield. See if we can get some stuff on the shield and on the helmet here. And then we'll play a little game with the saturation on the shield. Here, I'm going to get me the darker color on this other side of the blade edge there. And now here's where we're going to go with some stuff that's not very saturated at all. It's darker, but not terribly saturated. And we'll get some of this right here into the helmet. sort of create kind of a bit of a horizon line there. Now this is not pointed towards the ground, it's pointed towards the sky. So now I go back to something that's maybe got a little more, whatever the sky color happens to be. So yeah, we're going to do the same thing here. Let's go back to that purple color. And I think now I can maybe also turn up my brightness just a bit. So you can see we've got the blue on one side, purple on the other, and even without doing anything else to it, let's kill the color intensity so you can see we still have the values there, but you don't have, as we crank up the intensity now, you've got something that's like a turquoise. You basically have a green and a red in a way here, sort of opposing each other. That's a whole different form of contrast besides just, well, one side is lighter than the other. When you kill all the saturation, well, then you see one side's lighter than the other. But the biggest difference when a person looks at that is they say, wow, that one side's kind of blue and the other side's sort of purple. I hope some of this is making sense. Again, I'm just trying to, here, let's see, that could maybe have some kind of gold in it there. Then we've got to figure out what's going to happen with some of that jewelry, because there seems to be some of that too. I'm going to even go a bit lighter there. I'm going to go back here, see if I can. Just don't want to miss the chat or anything like that. Alright, I'm going to turn down my brightness just a touch here. Again, let's get a few lighter elements on this helmet here. And I think, oh yeah, you can actually see his little, I spy his little eyes in there. Tiny little eyes way in the back of that thing. A little more here. And we're going to try and create a bit of a horizon line there too. Going back to my sort of a sky color. So see how this has got lighter, from kind of mid to lighter, then to darker, but not just darker, it also becomes less saturated. I'm going to sort of double down on a little bit of that here. And maybe I'm just going to go with maybe some darker, more subdued here. It'll make the skin stand out. It's going to make that lava stand out, but I also have to reflect a bit of that here on the helmet then. And it gives it, like I said, not just light versus dark, but now some warm versus cool. Let's get the other side of, now maybe we'll hit it with some of that red, but now I'm going to actually take a little bit of the green instead of just something like the brown there. You also noticed I haven't really jumped right into super bright highlights yet either. Just kind of saving those. Oh, no problem, Will. I know there's never a kind of a 100% clean thing. I try to, when I can, But sometimes it depends on the figure too. Here, maybe if I wasn't doing quite as much of the lava reflections and such, that cast light might be a little bit different situation. And I know I think I've heard Kathy in the background talking during her stream and such, and I say it all the time. When you're doing stuff like object source lighting, sometimes the ambient light can't become lighter than something that's supposed to be a light source. And most definitely, and we see this all the time, you don't want your light source to be darker than the surrounding material. We've seen that too. We've seen object source lighting, and well, I can't really do the invisible air quotes right now, but we've seen lighting that is, especially on, say, a white robe, and the lighting is darker than the robe it's supposed to be illuminating, which, as you might imagine, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. As in, well, pretty much no sense at all. It would be, let's say this shield was white or whatever, supposed to be white, and it's lit from below by the lava, and yet the shield is practically white, but the lava is orange, which is darker than white. And now all of a sudden you got something that didn't make any sense whatsoever. And that is basically, you've got to make your white robe not be so white. It's like you have object source lighting, right? It's casting light, and that means that you better have a situation where the robe is just darker, even though it's supposed to be white. See how I reflected a little bit of the green into there? We get a little bit of the green into this, and that's a kind of a bright green there. It's just sort of sitting down in the shadows. It's not that obvious. Well, yeah, anytime you have questions and stuff, feel free to shoot those my way, because it's fun to answer those and talk about them. So see here, I took the yellow. That was getting to be too much blue. This is the other thing too, is sometimes you look at an area and the original plan for it, you go, you know what? Thought that was going to be right. It's not. It's not as right as I thought it was going to be. Now we can do the opposite thing here. We can cool that green down a bit. Now we talked about some green and skin tones. Well, what do? We just take some of that green and can just mix that into our flesh tone that we mixed. And because it is the transparent paint, see, it's almost like we're doing, I sometimes call these a dry glaze, for lack of a better term. Let's get some more of this into these crevices here. It's not so much we want the shadows to be green. We're looking for some other skin colors besides just that typical pinkish tone, because there should be reds and purples and all kinds of crazy colors in your skin. It may sound scary to some to think that that's what their skin looks like, but it kind of does. Depends on how close that maybe blood vessels are to the surface. And even maybe what the figure is doing, maybe more exertion leads to heart rate increasing, and maybe that can also alter what I was telling you about the blood vessels and such. So definitely never be shy about asking questions. I will try to provide the best answers that I can. The other thing too, when you dive into those really bright colors right off the bat, and you go highlight crazy, well, now there's no more. You've spent all the ammunition. You have no cards left to play, it threw them all out on the table immediately. And now there's just nothing left in the deck. That's not to say you can't sort of do things, change things, go the other way, and maybe do some glazing over the top to knock those highlights down. However, you've also then lost some very valuable painting time repainting something that didn't have to happen if you didn't go too far towards that white in the first place, or those lightest highlights. It's about context. That is a very important thing to consider. So when people do let's say they prime the whole thing black, and they're painting just the face, that's all they paint. Well, every color next to black is going to look, I don't want to say too light, it's kind of a paraphrase there, but it's going to look very light. And then let's say you're doing an Imperial Fist or something like that, and now the armor gets painted a sort of a light yellow, and now your face looks really dark. As in, like, the face is in shadow and everything else is lit with a sun. So that can happen. That's maybe something to avoid. And again, you avoid that taking the approach that I did here, where you work on the whole thing all at once. That's how the Cipher Lords were done. I certainly didn't paint all the freehand right off the bat. Freehand was one of the last thing. Once I had settled on all of the different, say, like the lighting there, all of this general shading that was first. And then we added the other, what would you say, the special effects or whatever, the glory stuff, that's added later after we create this structure. Need that structure underneath. So here the green, almost I just saw the bluish green on the Cipher Lords, and somehow it got me thinking about doing some bluish green there. Even going to put some of that into that shield for whatever reason. And oh yeah, well, not only is, say, green versus orange a nice little contrast, but if that green is cooler, almost a turquoise, well, you got that much more contrast working in your favor. Try and get me a little bit more that cooler green. What do we want here? Oh, what the heck? Maybe let's maybe make that a bit more of a yellow brown. I'm almost making a snakebite leather color there, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But there's so much in the way of reds around there. And I'm going to maybe even continue that onto his, I don't know, underwear. Now I can add just a touch of my opaque lighter color to that. This is what I love about the transparents. I do the same thing with the Reaper clear liner paints. As I start out with my clears, do some things very similar to like what we did with this. And then I start to add these lighter opaque colors, usually in the form of maiden flesh and maggot white. Now the other thing too is I can get back to my reflected lava light here too, because it looks like a lot of that is starting to dry. Now typically I am not working on one figure. I am working on, well, hundreds actually, but at a time I'm working on anywhere between 5 to 15 figures at any one time, just sitting out on the table with me here. Just a bit more. Yeah, those are... Yeah, that's actually... Well, there's pants, and then there's sort of a strap that goes over the pants that I... Okay, so that's how that is. Now, I'm just going to real quick here kill off rim of that base so it's not distracting anymore. That's just a transparent black. I'll go over that again with regular black. I just want to get that out of my way. And all of a sudden, gee, that orange sure looks bright. Now I'm going to go with a little different brush here. I'm going to grab a nice long liner brush like this. Not expensive. It's just one of these Cotmans. I think I can get it on Dick Blick for, oh geez, $3 ish, something like that. So let's go. We're going to go a little bit lighter now in some parts of our lava here. Let's do the lighting from below here. And I've got fluorescent yellow. I could use that too. But what I'm almost trying to do is make it look like there's some cracks here where some parts of the lava maybe is cooled or whatever. This is the part sometimes you end up going back and forth on a little bit. And that's the nice thing about the fluorescent paints is that you can glaze those back over the top if things got too light. And I think I still have my base that I made. Actually, oh yeah, I'll probably link that, either that tutorial to it or, yeah, I'll throw you a link in the description. So, yeah, if you kind of go over to the ends of the videos there, or if you watch all the way through, I suppose that would be nice. But I always have at least a couple of videos with these end screens that are just their links, and it's a video that maybe just continues what I'm doing here. You can check my playlists. You want to see a lot of object source lighting, the Warcry playlist too, but the Marvel Crisis Protocol playlist. Practically every video in there has some form of object source lighting practically. So if I'm going to get lighter stuff up here on this, I've definitely got to make sure I've got some bright, intense lava down here. And the only way to do that is to reflect onto these rocks here, especially these nifty little undersides or undercuts that Kathy did there. Here, let's go with another. Make that brighter. Some more. So this is a recent tutorial. Where's my big old base? Well, actually, here's another type of flaming base. So this is a Hellboy figure. Here we got flaming skulls. And that's what I did on that. It wasn't a lava base. It was actually just some flaming skulls. And I've done some bases where the skulls were actually greenish and not just the usual fire. I think that was a Song of Ice and Fire video. I'm working on some Sigmar stuff with my the Bone Lords there, the Ossiarchs. I think there's going to be some lots of glowing green skulls and that sort of stuff going on. So again, I'm just trying to find these couple of nice, certainly on the metal here, got to be something really bright there. I have those pointed again towards the ground, so they'll get some nice glinty lights. Don't know yet if I want that to be more of a translucent type of a container or not. Well, like I said, there's time to mess around with that. Not something that I have to decide right now. Let's get a few. Yeah. Lighter things going on here. And yet not be afraid to go the other way and reintroduce some darker stuff here, some shadows, or just tone down this if need be. But when you create that structure of the object source lighting so early on in the process, there's, well, adjusting things, there's a little less of it needed because you sort of made those adjustments at the beginning. So you have to do just fewer adjustments at the end. Let's do this over here again. Since it is supposed to be a metal surface, let's see if we can't find some of these brighter highlights here. You can see how that, as liquid as that golden acrylics fluorescent paint is, even with this little very small Winsor Newton brush here, it still gives me some nifty coverage. All it takes is a little bit of the more opaque ProAcryl, and I've done these things with, say, the contrast paints mixed with regular GW paints. I say, if you're seeing this for the first time, just go look around, see some of the Warcry vids, some of the Sigmar stuff, and especially Lord of the Rings. I got tons of different videos. You see kind of a common theme that runs through all of them as far as some of those questions, like the ones that Will had early on. And of course, ye old Patreon page. I'm on. Actually, I'm doing Splintered Fang right now, and I'll show you in a second here. So where's my okay, here we go. So this is one that this is one of my Army Painting Series 17 or 18. Some skulls there, a broken weapon, but we're going to do water effects. It's going to be more of a jungle type of a thing. So that's something that I'm going to be doing for my own videos. Again, these are for a charity raffle. That's why Kathy and I are doing these for Adepticon. So these, I'm thinking if that's going to be metal, got to find a few areas here of not just white, but see, there's got to give some color. So there's a little bit of yellow there. A little bit of yellow there, and now we're going to do some of that. Here's some of that purple again. Purple might even be my shadow color here practically. Like there. And I'm even going to just get a little bit of purple into here. I might even throw some onto the helmet here. And maybe even a little bit into, can't really tell, that must be, so that's actually hair. Okay. That's good to know. I did not really realize that. I think Kathy actually asked that, maybe even during her stream, is this like a helmet with a split in there? And the hair is coming through it? Well, apparently so. And I think the whole idea behind hers, it was maybe a little bit less with the, I don't want to say that bright garish colors or whatever, but she wanted to do some subtle things. I'm going to go another level with that. But I don't want the hair to end up taken away from the metal by being too light. May tone that back down again. As it's always an option. Here, let's get ourselves some darks back in here again. Ah, there we go. These crazy... I know GW seems to really love the squiggly swords. Oh my god, I'll never forget the... Well, we used to call them gold swords back in the day, but the... Oh, what were they? The great swords, right? The Empire great swords. And they had all kinds of crazy sword blades that just were squiggles. The entire sword blade was nothing but a squiggle. That was not super fun. So again, we got some green in that blade there, but now I think I need to almost reflect a little bit of skin tone onto that here. So let's get some of their brighter skin tone that we had made. Let's make some more of it. Heck, I'm even using some of my fluorescent paint. There we go. Because that sword blade is awful close to the skin, so why not reflect a little bit of it? That's the thing about metals. People will buy those non-metallic metal sets, and it sounds all great, except, well, yeah, what if he's standing on a lava base, or if he's standing on green tile? Well, that metal, it's supposed to reflect that stuff. How are you going to reflect that if the colors just aren't there? Because metal is not just blue-gray or whatever. It can be pretty much any color of the rainbow. Here, let's get some, speaking of greens again, kind of go back into my skin color here. I want to get some on his head here, on his scalp. I guess sort of like a 5 o'clock shadow for his head, I suppose. Still have to define exactly what's going on with this little tiny container here. Maybe some kind of poison. Here, let's see what happens when we do something like this and something like this and some kind of a bright green here. I don't know if we want it to be necessarily glowing, but... And what the heck, maybe I'll find some areas here on the shield to put that same color. Yeah. Because it was neat having the yellow green there. But remember I was talking about that color temperature thing a while back where it's not just green versus red, but if it's a warm green next to a red or a cooler green, yeah. So I'm just going to go with that cooler green there. But we've got lots of changes in that color. Still going to preserve some of the yellow that's there. And look, we're going to actually reflect some of that green onto the shield. We're going to reflect some of the shield onto the sword here. Because the sword's going to block the lava, right? Or the shield will block the lava on the sword, at least in this section right here. But if I'm going to have this sort of a green on the shield, it better be reflected on that sword. Heck, I just saw, and it was nicely done. It was a flaming sword, right? It was Space Marine flaming sword, whatever, and it was right in front of him. And I mean, by right in front of him, it was an eighth, no, 16th of an inch away from his body and everything else, and it had absolutely zero impact on the figure. And I was wondering what miracle of lighting that was, because, well, it really, there should be some impression of light there. Oh, we'll ask, got those Triceratops in the queue soon. Any videos on spacescapes? Did I do, oh, I thought for a second maybe I had a 2D spacescape, but I don't think so. I'll try and, maybe I'll try and do some kind of a space marine with a painted backdrop or whatever. That could be interesting. Or, who knows, maybe even the Cypher Lords get a painted backdrop. This one thing here that I'm working on, this is I did this as a basing video here. I'll be painting a mural behind her. It's one of those bones. I think it's one of the bones black figures. I'll be painting a mural on that wall. Maybe I'll do something like a Stormcast Eternal. That wouldn't be a horrible thing. So yeah, I'll try and do something like that, and that'll let me do a nifty little spacescape, because I used to paint those all the time. Actually, if you look at the blog, and I do believe, yeah, there's going to be more. If you look at that scrolling thing right there, that wappeliusblogspot.com, if you want to look at some of the old 2D art, you can find it there. Yeah, wappeliusblogspot.com. So yeah, if you want to see some of the old 2D art, and I actually have some blog posts that, I guess back in the day, where you had to sort of explain yourself, why are you doing the non-metallic stuff? Well, that was, in 2D art, there only is non-metallic. That's what there is. That's just kind of how that goes. So I had to explain to people, yeah, there's no evil reason why I'm doing the non-metallic stuff. It's just that's what was part of everyday life for me. Now I'm going to go back the other way here. Oh, yeah, there it is. Let's see if I can, yeah, I'm going to get some of this orange in here too. Almost make it like there are some, see those darker, cooled areas like that? It's fun sometimes to break up especially when you sort of almost in a way connect it to the rock formation. It sort of intensifies your yellow glow, especially in tight quarters like this. There was not a whole lot of room on these bases for the lava effect, and Kathy was doing these, making them on her stream, and I've certainly painted a bunch of these and created a lot of these on other videos. Sometimes the bases get a little bit crowded. Doesn't leave you a lot of room for things like these effects. All right, we gotta do some things now, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna do something like this. So we're gonna take some of that and do a little bit of a glaze here over this. There we go. Wipe some of that away. Don't be shy about using your finger, whatever. It's there for a reason. I do that just so often, most don't even think about it. Barely even give it a second thought. And I'm going to get some more of the water in there, and just doing, again, some glazes over the top of this. It sort of tones down the lava reflection that's a little bit more distant from our lava source. It's all very translucent right there. I wish you could, it would be easier for you to see some of the underside of that sword there. Let's do some regular, let's go back to some regular golds here, I think, on some of these guys. I don't know if there's, I mean, that could be a gemstone there. Maybe I'll change that. But in any case, obviously I see we need some reflected light over here too. But that initial wave of just what looked like chaos and colors everywhere. So yeah, I think those are actually gemstones. So who knows, maybe we'll make those a green or a red. Where are we at here? So get a little bit of my, yeah, just do a touch of highlights under there. And just trying to indicate some of the lighting via lava. So yeah, the Triceratops that were being referenced there, those were my scratch sculpted engines of the gods. And I sort of created those, scratch sculpted those, and put these portals on the back of them. And the idea was that it was, I wanted to have just a reason to paint some spacescapes, and that was really fun. So you can check those out on the blog. Just look at the Lizard Man army. You'll see them there. So again, just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna give myself some kind of later sheeting in here. Maybe give it a tinge of reddishness to it. It's super dark in there. You can't really see a whole bunch, so we will not get too involved with that. But I need a little bit of my reflected lava over here. Like I said, it's not, with one of these kind of poses like this, it's a little bit easier when they're standing on one leg. And there's plenty, especially in Warcry here, there's lots of one-legged poses. There's plenty of those. When they're standing up on one leg, you don't have usually a big old rock underneath them like this. That's sort of, in a way, it's just casting that shadow that you sort of wish wasn't there, interfering with all your nifty object source lighting. And you can see it just trying to give a bit of kind of a, almost like a spark. Like these are almost gemstones, the scales here. Now how about these? I think we've already got, we have plenty of lighter color. Actually going to do some more with the darks into that. Oh, let's go a little bit lighter. We got some metal surfaces here. A couple of these rivets. Where else can we use? I think we got to go back into a little bit of our darks again. Now let's get some lights on the helmet here. And it looks like this is I'm not sure if that's sort of, yeah, I guess that's sculpted in there as part of, it's like it's part of the helmet. I was thinking for a second these were some kind of cut marks or whatever. I didn't have a whole lot of chance to really familiarize myself with these sculpts, as in pretty much not at all. Because I think when I assembled mine, it was back in December. Here, just look into, gonna get some more of this lighter blue into here too, I think. And I'll show you actually one of the, I almost called him Safer Lords, one of the untamed beasts. And you'll see by his helmet the idea, yeah. You can see how there's almost, it's like there's some banding there. That's what we're trying to do on this guy. Same sort of thing. We need it on this side. And unfortunately, it's this carved pattern here that's sort of creating some mayhem with that. And geez, if I'm gonna have the hair be darker like that, I almost have to have it reflect onto the helmet. If the helmet's gonna be sort of shiny slash reflective, whatever, that hair needs to be reflected onto it. Yeah, see, we don't have any of that on this side, which is interesting. Whatever this is over here. Yeah, I'm going to tone that. As much as I would have loved to have some kind of the fiery stuff reflecting onto the helmet, there's too much stuff in the way between the rock and the sword and everything else, and even just his body in general. I think there's too much in the way to have a whole lot of lava reflection all the way up there. Now we're back to our sword blade over here. Gonna find some more of these brighter highlights, but there's an awful lot of nicks and cuts into that sword. Won't be doing the blood effects here. I think we'll take a pass on that. Alright. You must have dark to show light, so I'm just going to make those darker. Remember I talked about just taking a glaze and knocking them down? Well, that's what we just did there, because now that just appears that much lighter. Oh, I'm going to go touch lighter on his shoulder here. And I think the idea was to go a little bit different on each guy, not necessarily do them as a, like they're wearing Blood Bowl uniforms or whatever. So maybe the next one just has zero green to it whatsoever, and only the snake has that green. So see, we're trying to reflect some of that green here onto the helmet, or at least I hope it looks that way. Get a touch more there, and let's see those linear things that I was telling you about. Trying to do some more of those. Okay. Now I need to get some more of my sort of greenish skin tone in here. Let's see if we can redevelop some of that. Yeah, I can start to see some greens into my the skin tone that I did earlier here too. And right now that's actually sort of a purple color there. I mentioned it before. I really like to use that in skin tones. Now let's see if I can. So this is the sword, underside of the sword. I just need that. There we go. Right down that part of the sword blade. Nope, not gonna do any more on the side of that. We've got a snake over here. I think we need to give that a little more of a metal look, a little more of a sparkle there. You can add as much light as you want, but eventually you just have to add something that is dark. So here's where some of that purple is going to come in. Right there. And even over here, again, it's not like I wanted the shield to be green. I just wanted to reflect a little bit of that green. Now we're doing some purple over there to just sort of catch that edge and make it a little bit, yeah. Oh, let's see. You know what we're going to do? I think we're going to do something similar here. Now I can actually also take the green and mix that in there. Why do we have orange sitting on the top of this sword hilt? Really can't have that. That's not going to work. Again, another little quick modification there. I think that's a nice little change. And then, it's again, looking for a horizon line there created by the light from above. And then under here, you've got your lava lighting. With stuff like this, with this vial, if you want that to look, give it sort of a glass look, you could also just take either water effects or a gloss medium, or what's it called, the not it's the oh yeah, it's this stuff right here, your art code. You could take some of that and put that on there and give it a little bit of a shiny look. I'm gonna just drink something here real quick. Let's see, let's get a few more brighter. I think that's supposed to be some type of glass there. And just remind folks again that with the ProAcryls there, if you're going to be using those lighter colors, they're really opaque. They cover something fierce. Okay, I think that gives me a little more separation there. Now, we were thinking that these are some kind of gemstones here. Maybe I'll just go with... Maybe I'll go with some sort of purple here instead of... Certainly something that's not green. So let's do that there. And we'll do the other one. Now let's see if we can get a little bit of the sort of gem type shading on these. It's tough for me to see with my essentially my main light being off. There's just been some really strange things going on with the light. It runs in this sort of thing where for the longest time I can have it on and it works great, and then all of a sudden any light that I have is too light and nothing has changed. Camera setup's the same, lights are in the same places, nothing is different. Even the miniatures really aren't that different, and all of a sudden it just acts completely differently. Such is the life of someone who tries to make YouTube videos. Oh, I need to get the same sort of edge over here. There we go. Let's get some of these little sword cuts in here. Oh, some of the... Yeah, let's get some of that's the transparent black, mixing it with the transparent brown. Oh, there's cut over there. And these other ones here, these Untamed Beasts, all of these were done in other YouTube live sessions like this, so you can check those out anytime you want. Now, if you want to be, oh, what would you say, alerted to one of these when it starts, subscribing, yep, that's always good. But don't do what I do, and that is to forget to hit that all notifications bell, because I always forget to do that. So there's a bunch of different pages that I am subscribed to, and yet I get the notifications that they're live hours after it happens. So one way to keep that from happening is just don't be like me and remember to hit that all notifications bell. As I throw a little bit of a darker glaze in here, I knew that was gonna be something I wanted to do. Yeah, there we go. Just it's the nifty thing about the transparent. You can do the same thing with the contrast paints, and I've got tons of videos. But those, I mean, you want to see non-metallic, you want to see sky, earth, object source lighting. I've got all that stuff. Basically, using the contrast paints in a manner really similar to what you see here. Really similar. Starting to add some more dark here, and this basically separates my area from above and the lighting from below. And I'm gonna throw a bit more of this. Yeah, here we go. We got some of this light blue again. Yeah, so that I think Kathy wants to do, she wants to have more lighter stuff. And she definitely wanted to have some shiny surfaces. So that's going to be really interesting to see that. Now here I'm going to go with more of this. See that we got some of the yellow that's in there. So right next to it we have more of the bluish green now. Just make what would be just a plain old green shield, just have a little more life to it. A little bit more exciting than just, oh look, it's green, and look, there's a lighter green, and oh look, there's a darker green. The Cipher Lords that I did were, there was a lot of different types of green. There was sort of a bluish gray green that was sort of the darkest tones in the figure, but then there was some equally bright, some lighter greens too. Oh, what the heck? I'm going to see if I can't shoot me some purple in here. Yeah, we needed that. We needed to be we need some lights in here too, because this is a curved surface here, and I'm thinking that's what I need to, yeah. I needed to just sort of indicate there's a little bit of a curvature here. Yeah. I had one continuous dark arc right there, and that just, wasn't doing it for me. Just wasn't doing the trick. And I hope you can see all the different colors that are in this sword blade right here. Again, you got the turquoise, you got the purple on this side, you got some greens in here, even some skin tone over there. Now, I'm going to see if I can't shoot some pinkish red into the hands there. Sort of indicate the blood vessels that are there, kind of towards the surface. And yeah, we're going to get some lights from above. Now, let's hit this purple here, and I'm going to get some lighting from underneath it. It's going to be tricky because if I get too crazy with this, then it starts to compete with what's supposed to actually be the lava reflection. So it's a delicate little balance here. But speaking of that, the lava stuff here, let's go a touch lighter now. Can you see that? Yeah. I'm just looking to pick on a few of these scales like I did on the other side. It's almost treating them like they're their own little gemstones there. Maybe pushing the envelope a little bit. But hey, when you're the one doing the painting, you can push all you want. They're your figures after all. Well, these these aren't mine. They're not going to be mine. These will belong to somebody that's doing, I think it is the charity raffle at Adepticon. Again, Kathy and I painting one of these units. And I think Caleb and Kat, they're painting the Corvus Cabal. I do believe, yeah, I think they're painting the Corvus Cabal. So at Adepticon, you'll be able to see all that stuff. There. And the good folks that, when you think of gaming mats and the Table War carrying cases, the folks at Table War, they're kind of orchestrating this. And I do believe one of the reasons why we're doing this fiery base is that one of the things you also get is a Table War, it's a 2x2 lava mat. So it's another reason why we're doing these bases. And I love actually I have a Table War carrying case, but I also have the Table War battle mats, and I use those for my bolt action battle reports. We're going to be using them for Lord of the Rings and Warcry for sure. There. So we're starting to march our yellow and orange up the side of the base here. Now let's go, I'm going to say a little bit more on the reddish side. Keeping that orange. Still some of the orange with, here we go. I want to carry some of that red up to basically towards the top edge of the base here. Again, this is bulletin board cork. So many things you can do with it. Because, well, you can see here, now this guy is bulletin board cork. I'll show you that. Here, and the skulls are from Green Stuff World. So again, you want to see these different figures painted there. Just check out some of the links that'll be at the end of this video here. Always try to include those, because when I do things, like these little lessons, I try to build on them all the time. That's why we did the painting pyramid back in the day. The whole point was you start out with learning how to do that shaded base coat stuff. You learn how to build your structure, and then do the things like the freehand, the object source line that kind of hang those on top of that strong framework. And I've got another live session. It'll probably be the final one on the painting of the big old Hydra and the Hydra base. Heck, just do a search on object source lighting, and it'll probably reveal 24 videos just on that alone. Because I mean, love me some object source lighting. Who doesn't love that? Who does not love their object source lighting? Well, I know I love it. So I think we've been able to. Yeah, I'm just looking for a little, just one of those little dots there. Now here, that's gotta. I need some more verticality to these. So like this, and then we're going to take some of our red here and just make that more of a vertical. There we go. Just need to be more of a vertical line. It wasn't looking like a turned edge. It was just looking, I don't know, it was looking round, and it shouldn't be round in the direction that it was. So, okay, let's get some. I always want, like I said, I want to get some purple in here so it's not just darker, because we got the green over on this side. Now we just threw some purple over on this side here. And when I say purple, it's not, oh gosh, it just people think, oh, it's some kind of really bright atomic purple. No, it's actually very, really subtle. Let's see if I can't sneak in a few of the facial. I can actually see, believe it or not, way down in the depths of this thing, I can actually see some his lips. And his chin. But a lot of the original primer is still in place, or at least the dark primer that Kathy did. You can find a few lights on the hair here. Decipher. Is it? Oh, well, hello, welcome. Um, Welcome into the stream. There, it's got to be. Well, let's see. It's 4:20 here. It's got to be. Oh, about 8ish or so at night. I'm thinking. Well, that is on the eastern side of things. And training is beginning for Aussie rules football. I don't imagine my Western Bulldogs are going to be doing very much this season. But how are you? And what I'm doing here is some object source lighting, some lava lighting here. This is actually a group of figures my wife and I are painting for a charity event that's coming up in March. But I'm just sort of basing the skin tones on. These are some other live sessions that I did in the past. I did 3 of the Untamed Beasts, I think. 3 or 4. And here's another one. Again, another one that was painted on one of these live streams. So I'll have some. Oh, in Adelaide. 850. Oh, okay, it was not that far off. Well, that is, I believe that is some wine country down there. And hopefully, well, I guess the heat really hasn't died down because I think it was still 100 degrees for the finals of the Australian Open. Here it's been a warm winter here. It's we last year we had several days that were in the minus 10, minus 12, minus 20 Fahrenheit. Well, we'll see what the Crows are going to do this season then. Yeah, let's get a couple of more. Yeah, that's good. And some of them actually have a little more purple on them. Some are almost, they have some orange still from those very first glazes that we did. I mean, really early on. I see on this, we also need to, there, get a few glints of things. And then we got to access that's my transparent brown over there. That's the ProAcryl stuff. Ah, there we go. Oh, a Carlton. Oh, they put the blues into blues. That's for sure. But it wasn't always that way. I can remember when they were, geez, usually top four every year. Wasn't all that long ago. I think it was maybe 2008 when we first started to see Aussie rules here. And yeah, Carlton, I'm not sure that. No, I didn't see them in any of the grand finals, but they were always playing, usually, finals footy. But it has been long enough, though, I can't remember necessarily who some of the. Geez, did Brandon Favala used to play for Carlton back in the day? Good grief, almost 11, oh, closer to 12 years ago now. Yeah, okay, there, I think we got some nifty stuff going there now. Try and get some reflections of that onto this crazy helmet. Why they chose to cut a little hole in their helmets for their mohawks here, I have no idea why. They will be on the rise soon, hopefully. Love it. Oh, I've played it my whole life. Yeah, the glory days. Now, were you more of the forward type, the center half back, or were you doing the sort of the Nick Nat Nui doing the spoils? Or let's see. Well, I don't know. One of the revolts might be retiring this year. Kathy, she sort of adopted St. Kilda. That was her team, and I think I ended up with the Western Bulldogs. Not the greatest choice in the world. If you're looking to, well, see lots of premierships for your team, that's not the best choice. But I think, yeah, oh, let's see, didn't they have Tex Walker recently? Was that, no, maybe that was the Dockers. Maybe that was your purple guys. Don't mind me while I just mindlessly ponder Aussie rules here. Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, that just can't be in shadow. There's got to be something going on here, but not just a. Wow, I gotta give it some kind of a color here. That's better. Some kind of a color has to happen there besides just. Oh, we got kind of a dark red going on. I actually go back to the yellow and brown here. See what we can do. A few other things. Oh, Tex Walker at the Crows now. That's okay because I think he was injured in the in the, was it the grand final? No, it was Sydney. It was Sydney and the Bulldogs played that grand final a few years back. Well, more than a few years now. I think it was GWS first, or was it the Crows first? A little more, yeah. I know you can't necessarily see what I was doing there, but I just wanted to get that, work that in. Oh, engineer to draw, how you doing? Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've had to turn down a lot of the darkness and stuff on this, or the brightness. I think I might turn that back up again, or maybe even turn my regular light on to see what this looks like. But I'm just getting a few little lights on my shield here. And then just bear with me as no, I'm not going to bother changing things. Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, this is part of that charity project that Kathy and I are doing that's going to be raffled off at Adepticon. I think she has 4 of them. I've got 5, including a bunch of little sneaky snakes. So I'll be doing those on some of these live streams here. I think my next one though is I'm going to try and finish off the Hydra. Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit more of my, yeah. Now it may be taking it more than it really technically should be as far as that reflected light, but I mean it's all just fantasy stuff anyways. And while you try and have some realism involved, it's just better sometimes to take that, what was it, artistic license. I know not everybody likes that term. It can be a bit of a fig leaf at times. See, even here, yeah, okay, the lava's not necessarily going to reach that, but it just does make that look a little more interesting over there. Oh, Trevor asks if got to use the golden she's been using just was that the Leho stuff. I asked her if she wanted to try those, and I think she just wanted to keep it more familiar because she hadn't actually done lava type stuff or object source lighting in a long time. And actually, it worked. Then we thought, well, that's actually good because now you get to see 2 different materials being used by 2 different people. Oh, Decipher. Oh, just gotten back into fantasy Warhammer. Well, if you want to check it out, it's a video. It's called 20 Years of Painting, and I did it sort of on with the notion that I went back to a time where we didn't know what static grass was. We had no clue what anything was. We weren't even using miniature paint. We didn't know you were supposed to prime the miniature, but it was just wow. It was a weird when we think of what it used to be like all those years ago and what it's like now. It's almost like we were doing something completely different. But I did that video, and basically I have one of the figures that I painted 20 years ago, not even with miniature paint, and then I take sort of just another figure, kind of the same genre, I guess, and paint it with the knowledge that I have now. The first time we put rocks on a base, we thought we were geniuses, and then we realized we should have been painting those rocks. So yeah, just so many, lessons that had to be learned, I guess. And I still learn new stuff every single day. There's always some new material to tackle, or every project or whatever. Now, are you doing Sigmar, or are you doing the, oh gosh, what was it, ninth edition that they did where it still ranks and flanks? If you look at the blog there at wappeliusblogspot.com, you can check out my old Warhammer armies, my Lizardmen, of course, and then my Tomb Kings. That was sort of the ultimate. That was the ultimate. I sculpted so many figures there. Oh my gosh. And I'm hoping with the Ossiarchs to sort of revisit some of that. That's the plan anyway. So here we got again. See on the underside of that we got the orange and yellows, and then some of the regular light on top of that. But hopefully some of these videos, you check these out, maybe it can make that reintroduction a little bit easier. I've actually been reintroduced to Lord of the Rings. I'm actually supposed to be playing another game next Tuesday, I think. Oh heck, I played Blood Bowl in a tournament hadn't played since 2007, and of course my first games back are in a freaking tournament. And it would have been fine if it was just regular Blood Bowl, but there were spell cards and lots of home special rules. And of course, there was a bunch of players there that were familiar with those because they either did them last year or whatever. And here's me going, spell cards in Blood Bowl? What's going on here? So that was not the Blood Bowl I remembered. So that made it a little challenging. A little bit challenging. So you can see here again, I'm trying to have this side here that's kind of pointed up. Oh, Engineer Draw asks what armies we'll be using next week. In all likelihood, I'll have to use the Easterlings again because the Harad, well, they are here because this is, that army painting series that I've got going on. So they're going to, they'll have to reside. Let's see, oh, here's my painted example. So they're all going to be looking like this. So this is another one of my current army painting series here. I think I've got 5 now, right? Because I've got the Army of the Dead, the Easterlings. Well, here, let me show you what the Easterlings might look like. If I've got one sitting around here, no. Actually, they're all in my case where they belong. I'm also about to start another army painting series on Dol Amroth because horses, right, with powerful fight skill 5 if you got your Prince Imrahil. I've got done lendings. I even have a full Candish army that I'll be working on. So yeah, there's going to be a ton of Lord of the Rings stuff. And just go to do a Middle-earth strategy battle game or Lord of the Rings search, and you'll find Erkenbrand, Aowen, my Army of the Dead, some Easterlings in there. I've got a series on Morgul Knights painted in oils. And actually, I'm converting some regular Rohan, just regular Cav. Want to make them into cavalry for Royal Guard. Just finding a few lighter highlights there. I'm going to go the other way here. We're going to take some of the, again, that's transparent brown. Oh, let me show you some of the paints we've been using here. So these are the transparent paints from ProAcryl. That's what all these guys are, with the exception of the one opaque color here, and then the golden acrylics fluorescent. Oh yeah, the done lendings, those will be fun. I'm trying to basically do armies that would be opposing each other. That it's really fun to kind of play both sides, I guess. To do the Rohan side one time and then turn around, do some done lendings with Saruman next, and that's this weekend. I'm going to be assembling the new Saruman and Grima, and for sure I'll be playing at least one of these Sarumans, either mounted or on foot, in a live session. I also want to make me some Lord of the Rings terrain. I know we're talking about basically everything except Warcry here. I apologize for that. But a lot of that same, the terrain, the battle mats, we are going to be using those for some Warcry games. Because Kathy, well, she's got her Iron Golems painted. And of course, oh, where's my... Yeah, I've got my Cypher Lords. So I'm really looking forward to doing some games of Warcry with them. We also have, she's got a Corvus Cabal. Well, and obviously I have my own Splintered Fang that I'm going to use. We've got the terrain. We're going to try and do some fun things with that. Not just the painting wise, but some fun things with flock and other stuff maybe. I think it's at this point now I can kind of dive into some of these subtle things here in this game. So this is actually, this is a, look at this. This is sort of a crazy yellowish green. And I'm actually doing kind of a highlight on my skin tone with it. Because I know Will asked that question earlier. I think he's had to take off since. Sometimes it's just a feel thing. You just say, you know what, I think this will work here. Just put some more. I got greens next to purple right here. Well, I know there's still angst in Gondor because the Dragon Knight, with the help of Amdur and the War Priest, sort of chopped up, what's his name? Your so-called true king there of Aragorn, chopped him up into a bunch of pieces. So, oh yeah, I'm going to have to put Aragorn head on him. My Candish king already has some trophies on his chariot. I believe he's got a Faramir head and a Gandalf head, and I think maybe even a Boromir head. Again, going with the crazy as it sounds, doing actually a green highlight there. Why? Because, well, we got this, the orange going here, and if I do the flesh color there, that does that same old kind of pinky flesh color, it's not gonna, you're gonna lose a little bit of transition there. Yes, green may not be the ideal skin color right there, but when you're trying to create that broader context, not a bad idea. Oh, what do we got here? What do we have? And we need to get some, yeah, something a little lighter up here. Geez, some of that's still our original glaze back in there. I'm gonna grab me some more red to sort of recreate a flesh tone here. There we go. Makes a bit more sense now. I gotta remember that's actually pants right there. I keep thinking that that's his leg, but it's actually not. And there's actually a hole in it. Okay, well, we'll do that too. So hopefully this has been informative for you. Like I said, there's going to be more of these live sessions with the rest of this Splintered Fang as we lead up into Adepticon in March. So if you want to do the subscribe thing so you don't miss those and all notification bell thing, yeah, we have to kind of run the litany of those requirements that we have to do now if we want to actually get alerts when they matter instead of days later, if not hours later. But you want to drop a like on this too if this was helpful. That is good because it sort of keeps YouTube happy, and when they're happy, everyone else is happy, and everybody's happy. And you want to check out that Patreon page. That at this point now, good grief, I just added 2+ hours more of videos to it. So I'm just using the figure of 200 hours. If you subscribe to that Army Painter pledge level, between the Army Painting series and the Dark Sword and everything else, yeah, you're over 200 hours of videos, and that's just for $15 pledge. So if that kind of sounds like a decent value, maybe something to give a look-see. Oh, going to watch the Winter Fox episode. Yeah, where's that Winter Fox? Here it is. Yeah, let's grab that. So roundabout this time yesterday, that's when I was finishing the filming of this one here, and it was a real unique challenge because all we were using was just, and these were the two lightest colors that I had. That's it. And these aren't transparent, they were just the regular ProAcryls here. So yeah, oh my goodness, this was a challenge. These were the colors that I had to work with. Not that full range like here. Oh my gosh, maybe that's why I feel so spoiled here. I kind of feel spoiled having all these colors at my disposal. Oh, what the heck. I'm going to make this even a bit lighter right there, just for the heck of it. Yeah, let's do that. But thanks again, everybody that was in the chat. It was great to see you. And I'm going to actually try to get me some sleep because it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning here. I'll just rotate this around so you can see it. I'm going to create a screen for this so that you can see more what the finished picture looks like. Obviously, you're not going to throw any foliage on this because, well, lava and rocks. But be sure to check out some of those other tutorials. And I'll catch you guys later.